Alright guys, so we are truly entering the twilight zone. Another week and US trade policy has gone off the rails. Trump still doesn't know whether he wants to talk to Beijing, punish China, or remove the tariffs. And it's this uncertainty that's throwing the markets into full crisis mode. And if you are in stocks or clinging on to your US assets, here's how crazy things have become. Choices in America are about to collapse, while prices are about to skyrocket.
This week got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
But there are consequences to this madness. Because Trump now wants to tariff the world, we are witnessing a global run on the dollar. Countries, investors, and exporters, they are all exiting the reserve currency. When money leaves the dollar, it has to go somewhere else. And global investors have decided where the new safe haven is. Dollars are dumped and capital is heading to Asia. The dollar has fallen by more than 10% since Trump took office, but a big move came in April after the reciprocal tariffs. We can see the Hong Kong dollar get bidded up and the Taiwan dollar just went crazy within a matter of days. It might sound great, yes, this is de-dollarization, but because the global economy is just so interconnected, this flow of money has enormous consequences. Everyone is selling dollars today to buy Asian currencies. But global trade, the majority of it still gets done in the dollar, and that's the problem. When a currency strengthens too much, this is bad news for export-based economies. It's bad for places like China and Hong Kong to have too strong a currency. And now the crisis falls on the lap of Taiwan. The Taiwanese dollar has surged for a second straight session. It went up by 3% last Friday and gained even more ground against the US on Monday. It's up by another 5% again. This isn't great because Taiwan is an economy that is heavily dependent on exports to the world. Think of all the chips and semiconductors. A ton of those get exported to global markets, especially the US. And for Taiwan, 70% of their GDP comes from exports, and appreciating currency isn't good news for them. Their imports might get cheaper, but the overall effect is likely more damaging to their companies. Taiwan might be ahead in semiconductors versus China, but if their currency keeps rising by another 5 or 10%, even their products might get priced out. Global importers could simply buy more Chinese goods, even if their electronics and chips aren't the most advanced. And how did this happen? For one, Trump keeps giving the global markets mixed signals. He loves China, then he hates China. And in the latest interview, it seems he's ready to lower the tariffs on China again.
You're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those tariffs are staying on.
Why would I do that?
Would you lower them?
At some point, I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
Yeah.
And they want to do business very much. Look, their economy is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
So what we are seeing here is an uncertainty trade happening. The hope is for demand to recover in the US, and if the senseless tariffs on China comes down, US companies and consumers will get a much needed reprieve. And as we all know by now, there's a chip and AI war going on between the US and China. That won't end. The US will still need to import a lot of chips from Taiwan. Building a new fab in Arizona won't be nearly enough to move the needle. And because of that, everyone is anticipating greater growth ahead for Taiwan. Their Q1 numbers have already shocked the market. Thanks to Trump's tariffs, a ton of US companies rushed to import all they could from the island. Semiconductors, chips and computers and machinery. Companies piled into it like no tomorrow, and that drove the GDP number up. Taiwan's Q1 GDP came in at 5.4%, and it's over 100 basis points above the estimates. But here's the problem with all this front loading. That happened when the Taiwanese dollar was much more competitive. You throw in a contracting US economy, demand for the next few months could get brutal. And if there's no Chinese deal, demand for Taiwan's exports could see a collapse. And all the money that's flooding into Taiwanese stocks could suddenly get unwound. To make matters worse, Taiwanese exporters are selling the dollar for two big reasons, and they all stem from Trump's trade war. Now, the first reason is straightforward. Exporters fear that the dollar is going to keep getting weaker. The White House keeps upping the stakes with the trade war. Semiconductor and pharmaceutical tariffs are coming soon, and that would mean even less trade with the US, and as a result, a further dollar asset dump, and that includes the currency as well. The second reason is just as plausible. Exporters could be facing a new world where the Taiwanese dollar is forced to strengthen against the USD, and this helps US exporters sell more to the world in exchange for tariff relief. There's also big speculation that Taiwan was managing their currency down, but it's no longer working. A new Plaza Accord would totally break it. So Taiwanese exporters, they are getting out of the dollar and buying even more of their local currency. There's both a fundamental reason and a big gamble of a Plaza Accord between the US and Taiwan. However, there's a chance we might never get there, and the final destination would be a global devaluation for everyone. The Taiwanese central bank has intervened, they've admitted it, but it still isn't enough. Trump's extremely mercurial, and there's a good chance there's simply no trade deal coming. And that would be a shock to the entire Taiwanese insurance sector that is very exposed. Taiwan insurers hold over $700 billion of foreign assets, and the majority of the holdings are US debt. And here's why this is important. According to Bank of America, only 65% of these holdings are hedged against a dollar collapse. Some insurers don't hedge because it's costly. However, because they don't now, they are facing big losses the lower the dollar collapses. And it's not a good situation to be in. And if the insurers decide to hedge against a dollar collapse today, it would mean putting shorts on the reserve currency. And it doesn't matter if they use currency swaps, forward contracts, or they buy put options to bet on the currency falling. Any of these avenues puts even more pressure on the US dollar. And this leaves Asian economies like Taiwan in a big dilemma. They could be forced to break their fiscal discipline, which means to either buy more US dollars or unleash a big stimulus. As Louis Gave points out, the spike in Taiwan dollar strength is historic. They need to step up to the plate and smash it down, or risk their entire export based system breaking. We might even see lower rates in the country very soon. They might print money or just move to buy even more US currency despite the risk of overexposure. But without a doubt, some sort of intervention has to happen. Taiwan's economy is just too dependent on exports, and the insurance industry must be saved. Now, while this is happening, we must talk about Trump's latest bombshell, and by now, nothing should ever surprise us anymore. He has even uploaded pictures of himself as the Pope and a Sith Lord with a lightsaber. But when it comes to the trade war, Trump has dived deeper into voodoo economics. We are now heading deeper into the twilight zone at warp speed. And according to the president, the world is screwing Hollywood. Countries are offering incentives to draw filmmakers and studios away from the US. So America is going to retaliate. They are going to punish movies coming into the US, a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are produced in foreign land. And without a doubt, this is crazy. He wants to deglobalize movies. So I guess all Hollywood films will only be set in the US, or we will have all the fake sets of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Now, I can't believe I'm analyzing tariffs on movies today, and this is how stupid, how sad the entire situation has become. So foreign movies will now cost $30 or $40 a ticket. I'm not kidding. Trump has a plan to save Hollywood. He's going to force US consumers to watch only American movies by cutting away foreign competition.
The movie tariffs.
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it.
Now, firstly, does Trump have a point? Now, if we look at the data, there's some proof that the US is losing market share in global production. Around $15 billion was spent in the US to produce movies. And in 2024, the US accounted for 45% of global spend. However, production spending has dropped by nearly 30% over the past few years. Meanwhile, we are seeing an explosion of spending in countries like South Korea. Just think of Squid Games. Spending is up by over 1,000%. And the same goes for New Zealand. And a big part of those are thanks to Netflix productions. But has Trump ever taken a moment to ponder why filmmakers are walking away? Maybe it's because of the cost of production in the US, from hiring the crew and actors and all the backstage people is just too high. Or maybe the story has nothing to do with the US. How many Mission Impossible films can you do in the US? It gets boring after a while. However, beware of the blowback effects. For one, it will stagnate US productions and will build up other film studios for sure. But beyond that, the world will just counter tariff the US. China, for one, has announced they are halting all imports of Hollywood films. This was done a couple of weeks ago, but it does let us know that the world has options. And besides, Hollywood films are discretionary products of the highest order. You won't die without watching it. If the world coordinates and blocks away US films, this would cripple Hollywood revenues. Now, this might shock people, but China's film industry is enormous. It's the reason why so many Marvel movies are marketed to China. And just 2 years back, their box office revenue reached nearly $8 billion. That's over 24% of the global total. So, do you see how damaging Trump's movie tariffs actually are? Just losing China alone will destroy Hollywood revenues. Now, you throw in the rest of the world, it will be a disaster show. And I don't know about you, but the world can survive without watching Iron Man or the next Rocky movie. I can guarantee you that life will go on without the big screen. There's a reason why Netflix and Disney shares fell. Many movies like the Fantastic Four are filmed in places like Spain and the UK. So the tariffs could increase the cost of production by 100%. Maybe there's only 20 minutes film in Europe, Trump might still impose a tax on it. That could happen. And that's how crazy things have become. But just wait for the retaliation. Trump's tariff war is about to enter services. And this is where the US runs a trade surplus and not a deficit. America exports much more than they bring in. Imagine how countries can retaliate. You could always impose a digital services tax on imports of US films and TV programs. Now, the US runs a huge trade surplus in movies. It's over $15 billion strong, 3 times more than what they import in. Trump definitely has not thought this through. Now, the movie will doom US services. In fact, I have a feeling people simply won't watch because they'll just get bored. And if it keeps escalating, we'll see more US digital exports crash. And this is a high margin business. You lose that, and you decimate what's left of the US economy. I can't even pronounce my words now because it's just that ridiculous. But let me know what you think. Will more currency shocks happen throughout the world? And what's next after Trump's movie tariffs? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.